All right.
Wait a minute. Sorry.
We're not.
Well, I didn't know you were not seated, so... And the thing was on. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Why don't you do the introduction?
Welcome to Know Our Shelves. I'm Rachel.
I'm Michelle. Welcome back. So excited. Sorry. We watched the movie yesterday. We're like, no talking. I want to discuss this. Anyways,
Can't talk about nothing.
can't talk about nothing. It was like driving us both insane. So, before we go over what we read / watched, what books have you finished this week?
Okay, so I finished You Deserve Each Other, which was a rom-com, and they were lovers to enemies to lovers.
Okay. All right. That's a lot going on.
Yeah. It was alright. It was a 3-star.
Okay. Okay.
And then the other one is called The Day I Die, which was nonfiction, so I don't give my nonfictions ratings
Okay.
because
I gotcha.
they're too personal. And this one was about assisted dying. So
Okay.
you told, like, people's stories of why they chose that route. And
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah, so heavy topic, but pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very heavy topic.
Yes.
It didn't talk about any in the United States because
Yes.
it did.
Yes.
Okay, I know we have like assisted, but I know other countries are more open to the idea of assisted suicide.
Well, I don't think Indiana has anything, but they talked a lot about Oregon,
Okay.
and they have a death with dignity law.
Okay. I do know that. I just haven't looked into the law, so that's pretty interesting. I did 2 purely smut books. The first one was Little Lies and Valentines, which was like a stalker romance. You know, obviously Valentine's Day kind of. It was a 3.5. I liked it a lot. But it was, yeah, like I said, pure smut. You Are Ours Now is a kind of like a Why Choose kind of escape smut, like you're running from.
Who wrote that one?
You would ask me that. I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Why have
We'll
you?
talk about it afterwards,
Okay.
because I think I know the cover of it.
Well, it's like the purge masks.
Yes.
Yes. Did you like it?
I haven't read it.
Oh,
I just know
liked
the
it.
cover.
It was a Why Choose. Yes, it was really good. It was like basically 4 best friends, and they don't want to break up their friendship into going into a relationship, and they do, and it's just amazing. So, yes, it's really good. I recommend. I give that one actually a 4-star, just because I really liked it a lot. So, all
Good to
right.
have fun times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was smut, but it was nice. It was, you know, society kind of kink shames a lot, so it was kind of nice to be like the main character getting, or, you know, receiving what she wants. So, which is nice. Just a little spot. Okay.
So the book we read this week is called Annihilation. I have the original cover. And we watched the movie as well.
Okay. So we're gonna probably talk about the movie last compared to the book. Just obviously the plot line should be similar enough, otherwise it wouldn't be based on the book.
Kind of.
Yeah, we'll get into that, Rachel. Okay, we're just not there yet.
You know.
I know we haven't been able to talk about it, so we're all just like, okay. So we're gonna talk about the book first. And we're gonna go right in. Do you want, oh god, like, where do we start?
Okay, do we want to start with characters? Because we have 4 main girl characters. None of them have names. They're all their title.
Yeah, their title or area of expertise. So, we got the main point of view that the book's kind of, written from.
Yes.
Which would be the biologist. And then you got the surveyor. And then
the psychologist and anthropologist.
Anthropologist, yeah. Yeah. So, it's basically Area X is this mysterious continent that kind of just is popped up.
It's more like a, okay, I don't know how to explain it, but it's an area that something's happened to.
Yes.
You don't know what's happened to it. The animal life has changed. The plant life has changed.
Nothing is similar to our world, but not. And they're trying to figure out what's mysterious about it. They're trying to get more information or how to combat it.
Yes. And they sent this team of 4, which was supposed to be 5 because there was supposed to be a linguist.
Mm-hmm.
Which is our first difference from the movie.
Yeah. The language. Oh God. Linguist. Woo. Did not make kind of like this psychology cut.
Yeah.
From the book standpoint. So this is kind of, it's their 12th expedition into Area X. Each expedition is a little different, or explained differently. Some are all men, some are all women, some is just a hodgepodge. But the goal is they don't have names, so you can't take anything personal into the area, or
yes, but I also think it's like they don't want to know each other's names to a certain extent because of the fact that nobody has come back. So they don't want to make personal attachments with people when they might not make it back.
Yeah. So, so it's kind of the government's kind of driving this. Go figure.
Always.
Yeah. So they go and they don't know how they get into the area. They just kind of wake up.
They're hypnotized by the psychologist.
Yeah. To make sure they're calm when entering, which
I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of, so what I really liked about this book is that it's mysterious going in, and you just have more questions than answers. So towards the end, you're like,
well, you also have an unreliable narrator.
That's true too.
Like you don't know what's true and
what she perceives
yeah.
is the truth, or and I think that's a little bit in the mysterious, and especially like not having names. They're all just like, oh, the biologist or the anthropologist or the psychologist, which the psychologist is kind of the faux de facto leader of this expedition. And I know there's like a base camp.
Mm-hmm.
They have like an actual base camp. That's where all like kind of the expeditions go to. And they have like supplies there, and then they kind of have some maps already of the place due to the prior expeditions,
which I don't know how they got, but that's the side point.
We're not getting there. We're not there yet. So the last group that went into the expedition, or I'm sorry, Area X, the expedition team, reappeared outside of Area X with no memory of how they got out.
Yeah, and it was all random too, so they didn't just all appear at once.
Right.
It was different people in the team appearing.
Right. And then it was, I don't want to get into that yet. So they reappeared outside the world 18 months, or at least the one that we know about was 18 months after they left for the expedition. Some of the things I wrote down it doesn't matter. Like when they were going in, it's talked about each character, or each, I guess character would be the correct term. Each character, I'll just stick with it. I'm trying to struggle because they don't have names, and I just don't want to be like the biologist or the They have a triangle black box, metal box, that if it glows red, you're supposed to like evacuate fucking immediately. But the character that's narrating doesn't know or wasn't told what they're measuring, and then it's not talked about.
Well, it's talked about a little at the very end.
It is talked about at the end, and basically the reason why behind it. But at that point, I just didn't feel like it mattered.
Yeah.
So, no line to the outside world, no contamination kind of from the outside world. They want straight, unbiased, as unbiased of an opinion as you can, which in itself is kind of funny to think about.
Yeah.
So they all have journals, waterproof journals, which I don't know about that. I don't understand a waterproof journal. They all carry one, and they're all supposed to kind of write down their observations or thoughts, or it's a journal to write down anything. So
Yes.
their field studies, anything they encounter that they feel is deemed worthy to write down.
And they also don't show each other these journals.
No.
So it's solely their journal.
Yes.
So you don't know what each of the other characters are thinking besides the biologist, because she's our main
yeah.
POV.
Yeah. She's the main character. And it's kind of a known thing. They all have the same journal. That way, if you see one out in the wild, do like past expeditions, you're supposed to pick it up and, bring it home or bring it back.
Yes.
Which I thought was really, it was interesting, but not really if no one ever returns. Anyways. So there is in a kind of like an extraction point that they're all told to get back to if they feel like they need to leave. That it's going to be monitored from the outside world, and that's all they're monitoring is like that extraction point. If you feel like you need to get the fuck out.
Yes.
So they have one really main important, they have one main important landmark from the map, which is the lighthouse, which in the book you don't really, it's not
as important.
Yeah, it's not as important. It's just each member was like the map, and the lighthouse is kind of the main point, because obviously there's no other way to, I mean, you could track which way you're going, but I don't know that. I couldn't tell you looking at the sun, from the sun. Yep, that's north. No, I probably should, but I don't. I'm telling myself a little bit. So I guess they try to go to the base camp, which has like their main like food supplies, and this is where you encounter a 700-pound boar that they get scared off with, and that kind of leads them into opening their weapon cache.
Yeah,
because they have that kind of where you can't easily access it, because some of the past expeditions, I don't know which one, like what in the 12th or the past 11 ones, but it was said that one of the past expeditions decided to commit suicide by handguns. So they kind of pack them up so that deters.
But they still have them.
I know.
That defeats the point if you still have them.
Yes. It's a safety net, okay?
You can still get in there, though.
Yeah, it was kind of... It's kind of weird how they have that set up, because I felt like, if the past expeditions decided to, off themselves by the handguns, why still bring weapons?
Well, you obviously have 700-pound boars.
Yeah. Which I would... Yes. I can't get into it just yet. Yes.
And there's obviously other wildlife in there, whether it be herbivores or carnivores.
Yeah.
Or things that want to attack you, regardless of their eating preferences.
Regardless of their origin, there's some things that might want to kill you. Yeah, that one I didn't get. It is said that the surveyor of the group has the most weapons experience. She was like kind of military or something, and that's the only one that really has kind of like the experience of it. So she, of course, gets the only assault rifle they decided to bring. Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess, granted, it makes sense. The one person that has the most experience
gets the bigger gun.
But it also is said that she has a temper, so I don't know if that bodes well. Anyways, so they kind of get to they find...
So I think they were at the base camp, and then they go out and explore some more, and then they find the tunnel tower. Tower tunnel.
That shit confused me so much. It's like, please just name it one thing, because first of all, you don't have names for the characters. You have the lighthouse, and then you have the tunnel / towers / I think there was a third option in there. I just was like, I know it's a tower / tunnel thingy. So that was like frustrating for me.
Yeah.
It was like, can you please give me one or the other?
Yeah.
And I guess I get it, because some of them felt like it was more of a tower.
Well, she's the only one that felt like it was a tower.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else thought it was a tunnel, which is where the unreliable narrator comes in, because if she's seeing things different than everybody else...
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick that up, to be honest with you, so I'm glad you said something, because I did not pick that up. It is said that it was not on any of the previous mapping, so they either felt like... So as a group, they decided, hey, let's explore this, because either A, it's not on the map for a reason, it's new, it's popped up, or B, it was excluded from the map.
Yes.
So they felt like it was an important journey to at least kind of go down and to the tunnel
tower. Tower tunnel.
I just imagine since we read Wool.
I know. I was like, how do we keep getting books with stairs?
I was like, Jesus Louise. I'm like 3 or 4 stairs. I'm like, I'm done. But like going downstairs isn't terribly. It's just coming back up.
Yeah.
So they decided to go down there. And this is kind of where things start to get interesting. I mean, they talk about like kind of the surroundings and how it looks different and how you're basically fever dream.
Yes.
So it's like bright colors. Tried to match the theme here a little bit. So bright colors, weird looking stuff. So they kind of explore. They don't explore very far down into the tunnel area tower.
I think the first time they go 2 floors down.
Yeah, 2 or 3. It's not very deep.
Yeah. And they see vines that spell out words, which I wrote down.
Yeah,
the beginning of it, but
I was going to say, it's where lies the strangling fruit.
Yes.
Is the main one that keeps coming through, but it's more like a paragraph long. And I kind of read it as fungus. Mm-hmm. Like viney kind of, spores. Yeah. Like, if you see anything in mold, kind of like, eh. But this is in like the shape of words, which is like creepy in itself. So this is where the biologist kind of comes into play. Obviously, out of all of the other characters, she's most equipped to figure out what the fuck that is.
And she gets close to it. She puts her face on it, and she gets spew from the spores.
Golden spew. It's because I wrote that down. I didn't know if it was important. Yeah. So, the golden spore enter her nose. So this is where you feel like contamination, toxin, but no one else notices.
Which, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. How you don't notice, like, somebody didn't notice her.
Yeah. And the biologist kind of speculated that it is a fungus from a fruiting body, which I thought was kind of funny because it was said fruit and then anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
So the MC main character.
You can say MC if it's better.
Okay, that's what I wrote. Every time, like, if it's one specific point of view, I just put MC because it's easier than writing out the whole name.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways.
And we don't have names in this one.
Yeah, so we're just rolling with it. Okay, sorry guys. So like the MC kind of doesn't let on that she is contaminated or something happened. And this is where you kind of get into the first kind of, you don't know it at the time, but the psychologist is kind of, I think she's like standing upstairs. Yeah. Like she doesn't go in. Or no, she does go in this one.
The first time.
Yeah, the first time.
I think they all go in.
Yes,
except for maybe the anthropologist.
I think I think they all go in.
Yeah.
This, and that's why they don't go very far. So kind of, the MC kind of suggests maybe we should go back. Don't know really what toxins are in this area. And the psychologist kind of mutters a phrase that's italicized in the book. And we don't obviously know what that means yet. And that kind of gives you foreshadowing into what the psychologist is doing.
Yes.
So
they go back to base camp. They're all... I think the psychologist tries to hypnotize them at this point.
After dinner.
Yes.
So they kind of go back to the base camp, and then I would say do normal sciencey stuff.
Yeah.
Where they kind of like take samples and vials and kind of spread out, but not like out where they don't see each other. It's kind of more contained. And then they go back to, they converge at dinner time. They all they break out the beer. Yes, that's important supplies. I'm sorry. I get it for morale, you and me, but I would not want to go into something that's so mysterious and be like, first night, yeah, let's drink some.
Yeah.
I'm drinking some alcohol.
Well, it wasn't their first night. It was because I wrote it down. They found the tower on the 4th day.
Oh, yes, the 4th day, but they don't... Oh, yeah, because they're traveling to the base camp.
Yes.
Yeah. And... So, yes, sorry. I'm still upset. 5th night in, you want to drink alcohol? Like, no. I would want to be sound mind.
Yeah.
So I think they do that. They have, dinner and whatnot, and then that's when the psychologist puts everyone in hypnotized state. And so the main character realizes that the psychologist is like, everyone's kind of like slumped over, and she's like, oh shit, okay, let's fake this.
Yeah.
So the biologist kind of speculates that the spore made her immune to the psychologist's suggestions.
Yes.
And I wrote down the whole spiel, but it's basically, because they talk kind of about, during dinner, like, hey, what's the plan for tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And then the psychologist is like, okay, guys, we're going to go to the tunnel, whatever. Tower. Wear masks, record the words. They wanted to write down all the words. And then kind of do the same thing they did. Afternoon, do normal surveying stuff, be calm, no undue risks, and fellowship with the group. And then when you emerge from the tower, seeing a bird gives you a strong feeling of doing the right thing and you're in the right place. I'm like...
I feel like the psychologist at this point wanted to just, like, make sure everybody's calm, like, level-headed. Nothing bad was going to happen to them because they're all, like, calm. They know what they're supposed to do. Just because of, I think, the past expeditions and the craziness that they might have encountered. So... I think this expedition's kind of, this is what we're doing. Hopefully this one works. So they try the hypnotic suggestions, and it said that the psychologist hypnotizes herself too to get her past the border. Which I don't know how that works. I'm not sure either. But whatever. Yeah. Or she could just be saying, I don't know. Like I said, this is all from the biologist's point of view, so we don't know any of the other point of views of the other characters. So we can only kind of guesstimate what the biologist kind of theorized. Yeah. So, you go to sleep, no nightmares, no dreams. Okay. So they all decide to go to sleep. And the main character doesn't really... Like, she's tired, I guess. I mean, nothing else really happens. And then in the morning, do you want to kind of talk about this? Okay, so in the morning, the anthropologist is missing, and the psychologist is acting weird. Yeah. Like, she might know something. Yeah. But they don't really go into it as far as that, so they go back to the tunnel tower. So the psychologist gives a story that the anthropologist was scared and decided to go back to the extraction point at night. And since
the other two members are like, well, you're sane, so they're kind of like, well, we don't have anything to say otherwise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're unsure if they kind of believe the story, but they kind of they stick to the kind of the original plan.
Mm-hmm. So, they make their way back to I'm going to call it the tunnel, because it's tunnel.
See, it's funny, because I wrote tower instead. Anyways, yes, tunnel. Okay. I can dig that.
And the biologist and the surveyor go in, and the psychologist is like, "Oh, I'll just stay out here.
Stay in guard."
Yeah, stay in guard, which they didn't do before, so I don't know what they need guarded from.
You kind of find out later why she's so scared to go back in. Well, actually, it's coming out, though. Hold that thought. So yeah, they kind of go a little bit lower. It's not really said how far they go down, but the biologist kind of theorizes that someone is writing this, and it's like I don't know, being transcribed up, because the lower they go down, the clearer and brighter the words become.
So I kind of saw it as like the creature person that's writing these things was like starting at the top, and then they started writing this, because in this section she's like, well, there was some other previous writings
I gotcha.
Under it that nobody else noticed, because this is where she sees like the tower breathing, and
oh yeah, that kind of creeped me out.
Yeah.
Hardcore. She's like I gotta put my earplugs in because this fucking breathing sound, and it's like, it doesn't, obviously not like contracting and going like this in like a huge motion, but she just feels like it's like,
yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't like this.
But she's the only one that can see and hear this.
Yes.
So the surveyor doesn't know anything about this.
Uh-oh.
So then they start going down further, and they start seeing more of the writings.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start seeing like slime, I guess. That's the best way I can describe it.
I kind of pictured it as like, you know how like a snail leaves that little like gross
slime and ooze trail.
Yes, that's kind of what I picture. So as they're going down the stairs, like, no.
Yeah.
Human-sized snail-looking thingy, my bobby.
So they're getting to the point where they think they're going to find this creature or somebody who's writing this, which she titles the Crawler. I don't know if it was at this point, but sometime in the book.
Yeah, she does name. It's a little bit later, but yeah, she named it the Crawler, which I feel like is just. No, thank you.
And then this is where you also get some backstory with her husband's expedition, which was the 11th team.
Yes.
And he showed back up in her kitchen one day. About a year after he went to his expedition. And then he died because of cancer 6 months after.
Yeah. Had amnesia. I mean, he was still in expedition clothes and just kind of a former shell of himself. Kind of like going through the motion. And then the rest of this team also kind of came back home. But yeah, all of his team died 6 months later due to cancer.
Yeah. And then the government took, like, when they found out they were back, the government took them to the facility or whatever.
Yeah. And
interviewed them and all that jazz.
Yeah. So
typical government things.
Oh, 100%. So you kind of get from the backstory from her husband that they were fighting a lot right before they left, or he left, I should say. And like they were having marital problems, but it didn't go into what they were or kind of that, but she feels disconnected from her husband right after before he leaves. And I think that's a big kind of reason why she went.
Yeah. Also, this was a volunteer expedition.
Yes.
All of them are volunteered.
Yes.
So he wasn't in the military and then said he had to go.
Right.
He volunteered for this mission.
It was only said that he was a medic. And he was I want to say there was 8 people with his expedition.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think
like
glazed over the husband parts of this because it's like I don't know if this is important.
Yeah, I think it was 8. I'm not 100% sure, but so then it goes back to present day, I guess technically. And so that's when the surveyor and the main character find the anthropologist kind of slumped up against the wall on one of the levels and slimed up, burnt, missing flesh, just kind of deteriorating, kind of.
There's green ash on her chest and no skin on her hands is what I wrote. And then there's something with her legs, like melty legs.
Yeah, not much skin left kind of thing. And then that's where the main character kind of tells the surveyor, like, hey, I know some shit. The psychologist. And I think that kind of freaks out the surveyor because she doesn't know who to believe at this point. Because, when the psychologist kind of told them the story about why they, what happened to the anthropologist, she looked disheveled, so that's why they were like, do we believe you? I'm a little sussy here. Yeah. Little sus. So, I mean, they decide to fucking go back upstairs.
Yeah,
like, I 100% would do. 100%. And that's when they kind of come back up and go back to... obviously, the psychologist is not there.
Yes.
Guarding.
Because obviously she was taking off. Yes.
Yeah. So, she's gone, took half the supplies and half of the guns. So, that's when the surveyor's like, we need to fucking get out. Yeah. So she wants to go back to the extraction point. Obviously, the main character does not want to. She wants to figure out what the fuck's going on. She wants to get answers in every aspect of.
Yes. And is this where she tries to hypnotize the surveyor into doing what she wants and it doesn't work?
Yes, I think so.
Because they split up at one point.
Yes, they do split up. MC, she kind of talks the surveyor into waiting. And then this is where you find out they're going through a sample, or at least obviously, I don't really know what a surveyor does. She's not like a scientist, right?
So, from what I know about surveying, is that they, like, map out land.
Land, okay.
That's all I know.
That's what I was thinking. So, the biologist kind of goes through all the samples, turn up normal, which is... it's weird because obviously they're in something that's so very mysterious. So any samples they took are like the fungus looks like regular fungus. They took samples from, I think, the anthropologist. Just nothing out of the norm, nothing that they could explain by science.
Yes.
And any of the pictures that they took are too blurry, which they have to use old school technology because no technology works inside Area X. Not supposedly, we know this as fact, but even using a camera that you have to develop, it still was too dark, blurry, not usable pictures. So I'm really not sure on that point.
They didn't have lens settings right.
Yeah, probably. So this is where they spend the night. This is where the MC finds or notices lights in the lighthouse.
Yes.
And that's, I think, in the morning, that's when she's trying to, like, the surveyor wants to fucking get, you know, and she still talks her into staying. And that's when she tries to use one of the phrases that the psychologist was trying to use on her.
Yes.
And the surveyor kind of was like, paused, like something registered in her mind, and then she was like, bitch, you like tried to hypnotize me. Like, I know you did. Which does not go over very well. No. And I think...
And then at this point they split.
Yes.
Because she goes to the lighthouse, she starts walking to the lighthouse, and the surveyor stays at base camp.
Yeah. And this is kind of where Surveyor kind of mentions living in the past as a reenactment, which I thought was interesting. I'm not sure why I thought that was interesting. I wrote it down. I guess I just, in the, with everything being old and kind of not newer technology, she kind of was like, we're reenacting something.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit more foreshadowing that I picked up as past me, I guess. So that's when the MC was like, okay, well, lighthouse.
Yeah. She sees some dolphins at this point, because I found that to write that down. Like, okay,
yeah.
Dolphins.
Yeah, because it obviously
everything from the sea is coming inland, and everything inland is going to the sea, and there's no like distinction of if it's saltwater, freshwater.
Yeah,
they can live in all of it.
Yeah. So that's so this is kind of where the MC kind of realizes that the psychologist kind of hypnotized her to the point where she didn't recognize things like the tunnel. The psychologist was like, it's man-made. It's like, that's where I picked up on like, oh, that fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Like, so she was trying to words of encouragement so they didn't freak out and be calm. So it's more, the tunnel is more like a living kind of creature. That's why the MC was, when she became immune to the hypnotize or hypnotation. That's a weird. Okay,
hypnotism.
Yes, hypnotism. Thank you. I'm like, I know that's not the right term. So that's when it's not man-made. It's an organism. That's why she felt like it was breathing.
Yes.
And that's when she decides to name it the crawler. Yeah, so
it gets creepy and you don't know what's real and what's fake. And
yes, this is where the bit of like the mystery, like the thriller part comes in. You're like, okay, you thought you knew what was happening, and then it just went all out the window, so just forget everything that you read, kind of thing. Or you can't trust, like you said, the main character's point of view at this point, because, or I guess you can't now, but she's still kind of pulling things.
Well, you can't really trust her throughout the whole thing because, one, she gets, like, the spores in her. Right. So you don't know if she's infected. So you don't know if she's seeing what she's actually seeing. And then there's another level of hypnotism where if one character hypnotizes the other character, what is actually true. Right.
Okay. I got you.
So, she's not to be trusted.
Yeah. I didn't think about it that way. I was just like, the psychologist a bitch. But yeah, so it takes like half day because she like leaves base camp and then travels to the lighthouse and she gets there around noonish.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was interesting. Obviously the lighthouse is run down. I couldn't really get a feel in the book how tall it was.
I just pictured, like, a normal lighthouse.
But what's the normal size lighthouse?
I don't know. Normal, average lighthouse. Black and white stripes going up.
Yes. I imagine the stripes too, so I'm glad we're on the same thing. As she gets closer to the lighthouse, she notices that there's attached glass shards to the outside, so... And of course she's like, yeah, someone rappelled down from the top. And I'm like, how do you know this? How do you know this? I want to know how you know that. Which I don't know why I thought that was interesting, but I was like, man, like, yeah, you know what's up. And that's when you kind of find, like, it looks like they tried to, like, set up blockades and so.
It looks like some shit went down in the lighthouse.
Because, I mean, she enters and... blood and bodies on the way up. What? What do you mean? And so obviously they fall off something. She just doesn't know what.
And then she finds a photo of the lighthouse keeper where he's circled.
Yeah.
It was the lighthouse keeper, a little girl, and another guy in this photo.
Yeah. And it's you're supposed to get the you're supposed to imagine that it's an older film, photo.
Yes. Sepia and all that.
Yeah. Gross.
And then she continues exploring the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
She goes to the basement. She finds where the psychologist left her supplies, and there is a pile of journals, film, tape, everything that the other expeditions have left, and it looks like there's more than 11 expeditions before her.
Yeah.
The Area X happened 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
30 years ago.
So yeah, it's kind of, which is strange because it's found in like a fucking trap door. I don't know. But yeah,
It's the Evil Dead trapdoor.
Yeah.
She's like,
I wouldn't open it. Like, what the fuck? So yeah, I actually wrote down the journal size because I was like, this is a lot of fucking journals, okay? 12 foot high by 16 foot wide. Pile of journals.
Well, it was journals and film and recordings and stuff. But yes, and it was a huge ass pile of journals.
Yes, and being waterlogged, which there's waterproof, so I didn't really understand that. And they were kind of eaten by bugs, moths, whatever, you know. Yeah. So MC kind of sets up like a trap to know like if the psychologist comes back. So she like goes through and like starts reading the journals, and then of course she finds her husband's really.
Yes.
Which, yeah. So obviously she takes her husband's, and some journals she felt like were important or had important stuff in it, I guess would be the best term. And so she kind of leaves the trapdoor, or yeah, because she's still in the trapdoor thingy, my Bobby. And then she's like, okay, well, I gotta figure out what I fucking need to do. What am I doing? Am I staying here? Am I traveling back? And then, of course, she's like, I don't want to travel in the dark. And I'm like, same girl.
But she feels like she can't stay in the lighthouse.
Yeah, that was made very clear. She felt like if she stayed, something bad was going to happen.
Yes.
So she's kind of looking outside the lighthouse, and she just has the compulsion to look down. And guess who's there?
She sees a foot.
She sees the foot. Yeah. So, she goes down, and by some miracle, the psychologist is
still alive.
Injured,
but still alive.
Yes. And she doesn't know if she was pushed or if she jumped. And that's kind of where she's like, okay, well, I need to go. So she grabs, what she wanted, and she's like, I ain't fucking staying here. Anyways, regardless of the fact. And so she goes down and finds out that she's still alive.
Yes. And then this is the big explanation of everything. Because the psychologist says a bunch of shit.
Yes.
But one is that the Area X is growing.
Yes.
And then there's some other stuff.
This is where you find out why the title is important of the book.
Yes. Also that our biologist is glowing. Like the psychologist knew she was coming because of her glow.
I don't have an explanation for that still. I mean, besides she's contaminated.
Yeah.
So yeah, as she comes close to the psychologist, she yells Annihilation, which we're just like, what? And that's kind of when you find out that was one of the hypnotic suggestions from the psychologist, that if she tells one of the team Annihilation is to induce immediate suicide.
Yes.
So she felt like she was obviously coming to kill her. Obviously, that's why she was yelling Annihilation at her. And this is kind of where she finds out that, no, it doesn't work on me anymore. So the psychologist basically tells her that she was hallucinating, which is a known thing in Area X. And talked about how the psychologist, that she knew that the expedition had been compromised. And then kind of explains the situation with the anthropologist, where the psychologist was like, I miscalculated on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no shit, really?
Yeah, you got somebody killed.
Yeah, so you find out, like, the anthropologist was killed, obviously, and the psychologist was injured in that. That's why she was scared to go down into the tunnel. And,
is this where we see her injury where it's, like, growing and, like, there's, what I imagined is, like, moss and plants and, like, vines kind of coming out of her.
I felt like it was kind of like Last of Us. Which I know you don't play video games, but it's kind of like you've seen the TV show, the first. So it's kind of like that, where it's like they kind of expand out and reabsorb back into the environment is the best thing I got, I guess. I mean, that's kind of, So obviously this is where the MC is like, okay, there's nothing else here left for me. Because she kind of got some of the answers she's wanted. Mm-hmm. And then it's important to note that she has not read her husband's journal. She's kind of too scared to. And at this point, daylight's wasting. So
she starts traveling back to base camp. Mm-hmm. And then this part, while she's traveling back, they've been hearing this moaning noise in the reeds. And I didn't... And, like, until this point, I was like, oh, this is not important. It's just, like, creatures, whatever. No. It's important.
Is it? I mean, it is, but you don't... So, obviously, she's, like, hearing the moan, like, groaning, sounds, and gets closer. That's when she fucking runs.
Yes.
It runs until she fucking can't no more, basically. Which I was hoping she was running in the right direction, but it wasn't said, sorry. So she runs until she can't, until she, like, finds this big oak tree and climbs up. And she's like, this is the best I can do. Which, same. Yeah. I probably would have done the exact same. And this is kind of what you brought up a little bit earlier. She kind of wakes up because of light. Well, the light is herself. She's, like, giving off this, like, sort of faint glow. And so she, like, covers up as much as she can and goes back to sleep.
Yeah.
What? I need more. I need an explanation on this, okay? Why are you glowing?
You're not going to get anything.
No.
This is like a 200-page book. You don't get nothing.
And why is she glowing, guys? Why? Anyways, moving on. That's my one question from this. No, I mean, I have tons of others, but that's not the point.
Okay.
And this is... she's like a mile from base camp, and then she kind of gets shot in the shoulder.
Yeah. Because she's glowing, so people can see her.
She's coming. So the surveyor, decided, like...
to kill her.
Well, I mean, she's probably scared, I would have to assume. And she's like, where's the psychologist? You went to go get her.
Yeah.
And, she's like, well, she's dead. And then I think the surveyor kind of was like, oh, so you killed her. And she's like, no. Like, but, I mean, what do you think? You know what I mean? Like, from, like, we only get the biologist's standpoint. So we're like, the surveyor's like, okay, well, some shit's happening. Like, she tried to hypnotize me. And she's trying to, give me all these stories about the psychologist because, the surveyor doesn't see the psychologist after they go into the tunnel. So, like, I kind of see where she was like, I need some answers. Yeah. But then she's like, why didn't you just go to the extraction point, like, a day or so later?
I don't know. Because, like, if I was the surveyor, I would have just, like, left for the extraction point.
Right.
Because you're already split up. You're already by yourself.
Yeah. And to wait, like, basically a day and a half for her to come back, like, I don't think I would have stayed.
No.
Like, no. I'm sorry. So I'm really unsure on that point of why the surveyor kind of stayed behind. But then, obviously, they kind of have, like, a verbal fight and then a gunfight. And the MC kills the surveyor with her heightened abilities.
Which we don't know what that is either, because all we've got at this point is she glows.
Yeah. So,
like she's a damn glow stick.
Like, it... That was good. Anyways, so I guess like right before she takes a shot, she's like, I have one second before I see her head dip behind a hill, and that's when she shoots her, and that's her hiding abilities, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, so she kind of goes back to base camp and saw the surveyors like destroyed all the fucking food, emptied it all out, and the water bottles, any of the samples, anyone other fuckers collected, like everything, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, the surveyor didn't want no answers given. I didn't really understand the sample thing. Like, why did she destroy all the samples and all that? I really just didn't understand her mindset.
I feel like maybe she thought everybody was going crazy and the samples are what were contaminating people.
Yeah.
So the best way to get rid of it is to destroy it.
Yeah. I could see that, but, you know, obviously we don't know for sure, so, this is when you kind of find out that the surveyor didn't write anything in her damn notebook. Well, she wrote one thing, and it was that the anthropologist came back, but she took care of her. So that's where you kind of find out
there might be replicas.
Yes. I was trying to word, yeah. Yeah. I even wrote that brightness. What the fuck?
She's playing plastic at this point.
Yeah, I don't. So, this is where the MC kind of takes the samples that she took throughout her journey going to the lighthouse of stuff that should be different under a microscope, or at least try to give you some kind of clue on what the fuck's going on, like something. And this is where you get more of like, she looked at it under the microscope and it's all fucking normal. Even like her own samples, because she took a sample of the skin from the psychologist, and she doesn't see anything abnormal. That
is this where she finds that there was like some sort of sample from the crawler or the plants or whatever, but it had human brain matter in it.
I don't remember reading that. If it was, maybe. I know she did take a lot of samples, but I didn't think she took anything off the anthropologist when she was down there, because she noticed that the anthropologist had a sample.
It might have been that sample.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, I don't think she took it with her.
Because there's definitely somewhere somebody tested something.
Yeah. I don't remember that. I'm sorry. That didn't stick out with all the other weird shit, Rachel. Okay.
I'm just trying to get answers.
I didn't write anything about brain matter. Did not. So this is kind of where she reads her husband's journal, and that's when you find out 8 in total. I was like, I knew I wrote it down somewhere. 8 men in total were in his group, his expedition group. And it kind of talks about in the journal, they kind of all split up or killed themselves or tried to kill each other, so they kind of split off. And then it's 2 guys that are left at the end, which is her husband and some other, I don't know who he was. It wasn't some other guy, and that's when her husband talks about duplicates of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's when you kind of find out that the duplicates are shells, because they kind of walk rigid, not human-like kind of thing.
Yes.
And they go into the tower and they never return. And that begs the question to me. I thought, I don't know what your thought was on it, but I thought that was the exit and the entrance. Because if the doubles never came up, that's who returned to her.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of felt like, I was like, what? I mean, that's what I took from it.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, they never came up. They're talking about like shell-like of their formal, and that's who came back to her. So I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when she's like, I need to go back to the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know about all that.
Well, she wanted to find the crawler.
Yeah. And this is where I think she almost makes it to the bottom. It's kind of unclear on that. And that's when she encounters the crawler.
Yes.
And I think it, like, probed her mind or some shit.
Yeah.
And, like, she mentions feeling a lot of pain, passing out. Waking up, feeling a lot of pain, pass out. Kind of thing. So that's where I'm like, so it's probing something or scanning or doing something. I'm not sure what yet. And then she finds the door.
Mm-hmm. But it also sounded like, to me, well, one, the crawler was the lighthouse keeper, and he, like, kind of mutated and morphed into this weird thing.
You think that's the importance of the picture?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, to me, it sounded like she stayed in Area X. Like, she was gonna stay and just kind of, like, absorb back into nature, become part of the area.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's what it sounded like to you.
I kind of took it as, so she stared at the door but didn't go through it. And physical pain if she felt like going closer to it. So I think that was the entrance, and that's why everyone had to be hypnotized, or at least that's what I think. That's kind of what I felt from it. And then she's like kind of delaying because she doesn't want to go back and meet the creature or the crawler or whatever. And that's how I took it. I'm like, okay, I think that was the entrance of Area X.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like crossing the border, or because that's at least my perspective. And that's why the tunnel tower thing wasn't on the maps.
Yeah. It also would explain why it's she saw it as a tower and everybody else saw it as tunnel. Because if they were going opposite, like you come out of the tunnel, so it seems like a tower. It's like you're going up instead of down.
That's kind of how I took it. That's why I kept calling it the tower, I guess, in my mind at least. And then she decides to go back up. Mm-hmm. And she kind of waits a little bit because she's just staring at the door. And I think she's kind of figuring out what she wants to do. And I think she's making that connection. At least, obviously, that's what I think. So she kind of goes back up, and then kind of like the last, I wouldn't say chapter, because they're like you said, there's only like 5 chapters.
Yes.
So the last little section of the book is the MC telling the reader that this is the best of her recollection of what happened.
Yes.
And so she left the journal and her husband's journal in the lighthouse with all the other ones. And so his journal ends with, I'm going to go north or further into it, like another island or something. And that's when she's like, I'm going to follow his direction. Not because she loved him. It said that. I'm like, what do you mean you don't? Anyways, she wanted to feel close to him and see what he saw. And the last, like, kind of thing is, I will not be back. And I think that meant she's not going back to civilization.
Yeah.
Whatever.
She's staying in Area X.
Yeah. Is that what you got with the ending?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so she kind of stayed and kind of
did whatever
to go up or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not. I just don't. Yeah. A lot of questions with this one.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the first book in the Southern Reach series, which, I mean, obviously. So, anything else about the book itself?
I don't think so.
Okay. So we're going to go on with the movie as to talk about how it compared to the book itself.
Here
we
go.
Things. This is what we wanted to have the conversation last night, but we didn't because we wanted it to be a little bit more authentic and not have rehashed some things. And it's interesting to kind of see what you thought, especially reading the same book. We have different opinions on it, and we have different point of views, so it's kind of nice to be like, so we're going to go into it. Well, she noticed this, actually, by the way. She noticed the first major plot difference.
So on the cover of the movie,
if you ignore her husband.
If you ignore her husband, Oscar Isaac, which is hard to do, but whatever.
Yes.
There are 5 ladies on this cover. So we have a team of 5 instead of a team of 4.
Yes.
Another thing is everybody has names.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for a movie, it's hard to get it where they don't have names.
Yeah.
And you're just calling each other, like, the biologist.
Yeah, so I felt like that made them have more of a personal connection. And you have a little bit more information on the get-go.
Yes.
You know that the area is expanding. You kind of know.
So they
I
say
feel like that's about it.
Yeah, the area is expanding, but the area has only existed for 3 years in the movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is completely different than the 30 years that
Yeah.
it was. They also say that the lighthouse is where it started.
Yeah. That's why it's on every map in the.
Yes.
I don't know if that's in the book, if it was the epicenter in the book itself, but in the movie they make it the epicenter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all started at the lighthouse.
And then you start out the movie with her husband showing back up at her house, as opposed to finding that out when they're already in Area X. So she hasn't made it to Area X at this point.
Yeah. And it's also known that every team that has been into Area X has not returned, period. So her husband's the first one to make it out of Area X.
Period.
Yeah. I was gonna say alive, but yeah. Yeah. And in this, they're calling it in the movie they call it the shimmer.
Yes.
Which is maybe where the brightness from the book comes in. I don't know. She
don't glow like a glow stick in this.
No, she does not.
There's a lot of differences.
There is a lot of differences. And there's no hypnotizing.
Nope.
Besides, if you want to count, so that you see them entering in the movie, the border of Area X, and then it cuts to they're in there 4 days later, and they don't know how they got to this like campsite they kind of made, which might be base camp for them.
Yeah, except for in this one, instead of like you having the tower and the tunnel, it's more they're traveling to the lighthouse.
Yeah.
So they come across things like they come across an alligator because they're in a swamp. The alligator's like mutated. Or they come across a bear, which is also mutated and can scream like the person that it killed.
Yeah, it had some weird Cubone moment going on where he was wearing a skull on top of his head.
Yeah.
And then it kind of mimicked because it killed. I don't know who she. I mean, I know the character, but I don't know who she was.
I don't know because it doesn't.
Yeah, it didn't.
Each of these characters are not line up with the characters besides Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
She's our biologist.
Yeah, she's the biologist in both the book and the movie. In the movie, she has more of a military background. That's how she met her husband. And her husband's also in the military as well in the movie. And that's where he kind of got, I don't know, forced to go. I don't know if he volunteered or not.
Yeah. I feel like it was supposed to be understood that he volunteered because of she was having an affair.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
Because it sounded like the girls volunteered, but it also sounded like they were kind of like trapped in base camp before they got to Area X.
Right. Yeah. Because they were already kind of studying it.
Yeah.
Because in the movie, you can see it. They have like a base camp that's a little bit further away. And you kind of find out the psychologist is the one that vets all of the teams to go in. And she's to like a breaking point where she's like, I need to know what's there. And then, of course, you kind of find out later in the movie, obviously spoilers, sorry guys, that she was sick. And I don't know.
I think she had cancer.
She had cancer, but I was kind of thinking that they took that from the book, that she was so close to maybe the shimmer or whatever. But I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm taking very big leap there.
Yeah.
Very big leap. So the lighthouse and the tunnel are kind of together.
Yes.
They're not separate.
Mm-hmm. And we don't have the Vine messages in this at all.
No.
So basically they took the kind of structure of this book, and then they made it into their own storyline, really.
Yeah. Which I know with movies you kind of have to give a little bit more to keep the audience. I don't know why I couldn't say that word. Sorry. Kind of hooked into like, why is this happening? Why is she,
Yeah.
So I kind of get that where they had to take a little bit more liberty into. I kind of wish they would just kind of done the books and they were in the area and then kind of the backflashes, but that's personal opinion.
Yeah.
Personal preference. Whatever. There's something with the snake tattoo.
So I feel like I know that the area burnt down at the end because she caught the alien on fire, which I think was supposed to be the crawler.
Yeah.
But I also still feel like she is like a replicant. Like somewhere in that thing, she changed from herself to the you know what I mean?
Yeah. I kind of took it as so I kind of looked up. It's I don't know how you say that.
Ouroboros.
Yeah, which is apparently a known thing. It's a snake eating itself in a affinity symbol. And continuous renewalness. But it's kind of said that in the area everything's refracted inside, so that's why they can't have any signals outside. It's all scrambled, and it's basically all the living things come from one thing, and that's in the crawler from the book. In the movie, it's not.
It's like an alien.
Yeah. Like metallic-y looking, like humanoid figure, and that's who like replicates based on,
because Oscar Isaac's character killed himself in Area X.
Yes.
But yet he showed back up in the real world. So he was obviously like a duplicate or a replica or a doppelganger. Yeah. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Which, oh my god, that kind of fucked me up. Because you basically, and I didn't really understand this because no technology works, but the cameras could still record. I didn't really understand that.
So I think there wasn't any signals. So you can still record stuff. You just can't like send it out, or you can't talk to people outside of your area.
Because they tried to like put a body cam on the people entering, and it always fucked up. So I guess that's where I was like, well, technology doesn't work, But yeah, there's a video that they saw earlier that was like messed up. One of the guys from the team, they basically cut open his stomach and saw like this worm moving and so slowly all of her team dies like they do in the book. Different kind of circumstances, I feel like.
Yeah, because one of them dies because of the bear. Yeah. Two of them die actually because of the bear.
Oh yeah.
And then the other one dies because she just like wants to give up, and she turns into flowers. What happened to the psychologist? Was she
was in the tunnel, and she like exploded into a million pieces.
I knew she was gone at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Which of course when you see her in the movie, she like doesn't have any eyes, and that freaked me out. Like Coraline fucking shit going on. And then she hears the biologist, Natalie Portman, and she's like, "Hey girl." I'm like, what the? You didn't have any eyes. Anyways. So before she gets into the tunnel, the biologist watches the recording of her husband taking a thermal grenade or something, and light himself on fire. And then the double comes out and like looks at the camera, and that's when you're like, oh, that's who came back. The double person thingy.
Yes.
And then she goes into the tunnel, sees the psychologist, and she kind of just explodes. And that's when it tries to copy the biologist.
Yes. Which I feel like it actually did, because she had the tattoo, and she didn't have a tattoo before.
No.
And I think that was a subtle, like, she's a duplicate.
Okay.
Because they're taking everything, like, everybody's becoming one.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I thought. Like, she had some characteristics of... not characteristics, but... Oh, well, yeah, that would work, because of the tattoo and stuff. And then there towards the end, when she gets back, so, of course... not halfway, maybe 1/4 of the way through the movie, maybe it is halfway, you find out that she's back and she's retelling this to other scientists. And which I kind of didn't like. I kind of wish she would have stayed in the area. More true to the book. Yeah, but I get why they did it that way, because I don't think they were wanting to do a second or third movie, or, any other movie based on this concept.
Yeah.
So, I think they try to make it not neatly, in a bow kind of thing, but basically she tricks her double, or the alien thing, into killing themselves like her husband did. And that's when everything just starts burning down, because then you find... That's where you get... the one thing that was making everything different. It all came from that one source.
Yes.
And I think that's, for the movie, it made sense to do that. And it made sense, like, the shimmer comes down, everything's normal now. I get from the movie standpoint why you had to take some liberties with that.
Yeah. I also don't know, because we just obviously read the first book.
Right.
So I don't know if they've taken some of the stuff from the other 2 books and just kind of, like, infused it in at the end.
I was missing the boar. I'm sorry, I had to bring up the boar. It was not a bear, it was a boar! Again, boar's not as scary, but...
Well,
it could have been a boar!
We got a bear and we got an alligator. Which, if y'all asses don't stop going into water in the South,
there's always
alligators.
They're surprised that there's animals. Yeah, no. I felt like another big difference from the book to the movie is there were no journals. No psychological black box. No I already talked about the hypnotist. And that's all I kind of... I mean, it was a little different, obviously, but that was the main...
Well, it was more of like a travel sci-fi as opposed to like you're in one location.
Yeah.
For the there was 3 or 4 different locations in the first one in the book.
Yeah.
But they weren't traveling from point A to point B to the lighthouse. They were kind of just like exploring.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was a major difference. So I think that's the biggest difference. I mean, obviously the little things, you saw a little bit more creatures, you could visualize it a little bit more, but I felt like it gave the same kind of feel like the book was trying to give, at least for the craziness of the area.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job on that part, but so then I guess, are we going over ratings?
Sure.
Okay. So overall rating for the book, for me, was a 3. I think if I read the second, third book, I think it would tie it together a little bit more, and I think it would give it a better rating. But without reading the second, third book, I still have a lot of questions I want answered.
So, I'm into 3 as well.
Okay.
I liked it, but it wasn't giving me what I needed in the book.
Yeah, I gotcha. I understand that.
So I don't know if I'll continue on with the series.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either. I think if I didn't have anything else to read, I think I wouldn't mind continuing it.
I think it suffered because we had just read Wool, and there's like similarities in Wool and this, and Wool is better to me than this was.
No, I agree with that.
So I think that's why this got a lower rating.
I gotcha.
It's because it suffered because I'd read something similar
that was better. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, they're both sci-fi. They're both post-apocalyptic. Well, kind of.
They both got stairs.
Jesus. I just need to get fit, I guess is what they're telling me here. Yeah. Okay, so my science-y score would be a 2. I felt like there was... I just felt like there wasn't a lot of science-y stuff going on. Like, yeah, they took samples, but it didn't go more into, like, the science part of what they were seeing in the microscope. They're just like, oh, it's all normal, it's not abnormal. It's like, can you expand on that a little bit more? That's kind of why I gave it the rating I did on that.
Yeah, I think 2 is probably the right.
Okay.
Because it wasn't like, you had some weird things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't explained in the way.
Yeah.
Because we had an unreliable narrator, so...
Yeah.
Of course, nothing was explained that we wanted to explain.
I mean, I feel like the most science-y thing was her theorizations. Which didn't really get into science.
Well, the area in and of itself could be, like, alien. They didn't know.
Yeah.
So, and that is science fiction-y, but also we didn't get an explanation of why the area was there.
Yeah. Which maybe comes in the second. I mean, obviously, I'd hope the second or third book would tell you something. But without reading those, it's kind of hard to, yeah. Did we have another one besides the book compared to the movie? Right? Is that the last one on this one? Okay. So we also did an extra rating since we're doing kind of the book and watching the movie and comparing them. So we're not giving the movie an overall rating, right?
Well, we can give the movie an overall rating.
Okay. So that would give us 2 additional scores. So we got 4 total. So I'm going to go with the first one I wrote down. So the book compared to the movie, I would give it a 2.5. I felt like it like the most basic plot points are there. They're just not from the book. Like, it's different from the...
See, I would almost give it, like, compared to, like, this is almost comparing apples to oranges. Like, you have the basest frame, so I'd give it, like, a 1.5.
Okay.
But you don't have, like, this story, the book story is very different from the movie story.
Yes. I felt like it had kind of the same, like, the same main plot points. That's why I gave it, but it wasn't... The movie kind of did more of a movie adaptation to it, really, I guess.
It had the loose framework of the book.
Yes. That's why I gave it a 2.5, really.
Yeah. But as far as faithful adaptation, if you read the book and then watched the movie like we did, it's completely different.
Yeah. So you're saying if you hadn't read you're saying that if, as we did, we read the book first and then watched the movie, so you're saying if you had not known about the book, would you have thought it was that if you read that after the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I would be confused about, like, okay, why is there not 5 ladies?
Okay.
Also, why are there not more creatures? And it might just be that the writer of the movie had read the whole trilogy, so they knew that more things were going to come up.
I could see that. Okay.
So they incorporated that more than
just the first book itself, which is what it's based on. Okay, I get that. Yeah. I might... Yeah. I mean, I might mess with my rating a little bit, but I still feel like it's at least a solid 2.
Yeah.
Just because of all the similarities that I would have... I guess I gathered from both.
So the husband story and the husband story in the book are pretty similar.
Yeah, just different timelines.
But the journey that Natalie Portman's character, the team goes on is different.
That's completely different. I get it. I was not as rough. I was not as harsh with my ratiness. The movie is completely different than the book. Yeah.
So if you go in thinking that the book is going to be the same as the movie.
Definitely not. It never is. But yeah, okay. I get it. Okay, so overall, taking the book out of the situation, what's your overall rating for the movie itself?
Probably a 4. Like, I liked the movie. It was like vibey. Okay. There was a good plot to it. Like, it's 4.
Okay.
not the best movie that I've seen, but...
Right, okay. I would probably give it a 3. Just because I guess, like, I didn't really understand some things from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't really understand, like, the tattoo. Didn't really explain it.
I think the tattoo is only like a little Easter egg, and most people don't notice it.
I noticed.
Yeah, I know.
I noticed it. I know. Yeah. I thought the like the visuals in it was great.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was in like kind of like a fever dream, especially with like shimmer, and the rainbow effect it had, like, because there's a rainbow effect throughout the whole movie with like the background. The water looks like has that rainbow, like, oil spill kind of feel, but it's not as dark, obviously. I thought I liked seeing that aspect of it,
mm-hmm.
because the book, it talks about all the crazy looking different things, and I felt like I got a little bit more science stuff with it that I wanted in the book.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I gave it the rating I did. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed us comparing the book to the movie. This is kind of a theme we're going for the month.
Yeah, so it's a hopefully accidental theme, but a theme nonetheless.
Yes. Kind of picked the first couple ones. We're like, hey, there's a movie. Let's do this. So we hope you liked it. The next one is going to be
Yes.
Found in the Cornfield. And we're actually going to watch that movie in theaters.
Yes.
Because it just can't. Oh, it comes out next week.
Well, it comes out Friday.
Friday, yeah, but.
So next week's episode, we might not go too far into the movie, just because
it's so
spoilers and it's so
Yeah.
new. Annihilation came out in 2018. If you haven't seen it at this point,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, so yeah, that's good to know. I guess yeah. Okay, we'll
compare it a little bit, but we were not going to spoil everything.
Yeah.
We will spoil the book though, so
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I hope you like listening to Annihilation. Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.